Hi.
Hello,
Danny
everybody.
Fleming.
I'm Marcus Collins from the MA Properties Online team for
another seminar on
the current state of the real estate market in Lexington,
yeah.
And we will also get our crystal ball out and start giving you some predictions about what the rest of 2020 is, and maybe, because I'm going to tease you here, what 2021 brings. So, with that, why don't you take it away, Danny, and then I'll do the stats afterwards.
Okay. Well, part of what this is just a bit of an introduction to fill you in on who we are and all of that sort of stuff. So we are a team of agents and full-time support folks. We have 8 agents in the team and 6 full-time support folks. So we hired a full-time support person this morning. So it's
changing as we speak.
Yeah.
Like dynamic, what can I tell you?
But I had to include her. And look, what the agenda for this evening is we're going to talk about smart decisions. That's going through the stats of what's going on in Lexington, filling you in on what's happening with the impact of COVID. We'll talk. We'll go into most of tonight is going to be on selling in 2020, and then we'll a lot of our sellers also need to buy, so we'll go into briefly a little bit about buying in 2020. We do have buyers seminars fairly frequently where we go into detail in the buying market and what's involved, but we'll give you a bit of an overview of it, and then we look at virtual buying and selling. So Marcus,
with that, we'll take. And as for buyers seminars, I actually did one. Corinne and I did one last Thursday.
Yeah,
we get this right. So today is Tuesday. It was last Thursday. So we have one that's bang up to date with what's happening in the. We focused a little bit on the Arlington market there in that seminar, but we also do ones that focus on buying in the Lexington market. So and broader as well. It's much broader than very town specific.
And you can find those on our website if you go and have a look at our blogs page. It will be one of the most recent ones because it was so recently done.
Hopefully, if I did it right.
Okay, yeah.
If I did
okay.
it right. I am really if I did
I'm
it right.
sure
Hopefully, if I did it right. Okay, so smart decisions. Let's take a look. What are the characteristics of the local market? Interesting question, but what you really want to know is this, of course. What's the impact of COVID on 2020 and, crucially, the 2021 housing market? So let's see if we can't answer those 2 questions over the next 4 or 5 slides. Well, more than that, 5, 6.
Before we go too much into it, you'll see me occasionally looking down at my laptop down here. So if you've got questions, ask away. I keep on monitoring this to answer as we go along.
All right, so big picture. This is the data as of January 2020. So looking at the last 10, 12 years of what happened in the Lexington market. As you can see, the crash was in 2009, and it's risen. The median price has risen steadily since 2009, year on year, actually, all the way up to about 1.2 million was the median price for 2019. So what's actually happening in the Lexington market to explain that increase in prices? I like to start by looking at this graph, which is the demographics actually for the United States, and it's about 5 years old, 2015, excuse me. So hopefully we'll get another one pretty soon. But what it shows us is the number of people that are in each age bracket. And there are 2 bumps, if you will, in this, 2 age groups where there's an increase in the number of people. The top one there is the baby boomers, the children born just after World War II. They are now getting to the downsizing time, retirement, downsizing. That's driving a large part of the market, not necessarily in the higher price points in Lexington, but certainly in the lower price points in Lexington. The lower band there is the first-time home buyers, the millennials. They are looking for their first home in a town, and increasingly, I'll give a little bit of the secret moving forward away, increasingly as of COVID, a lot of them moving out of the city, coming out here to the suburbs. So we're seeing an increase in the number of buyers, predominantly in that lower age bracket. And those two are not necessarily looking at the more expensive, the $1.2, $1.3 million houses, but they're looking at the lower price points. This is one reason why, digressing to Arlington, for example, for a moment, this is why Arlington is such a hot market. Because the downsizers see Arlington as a great destination. Imagine you're living in Lexington, you'd like to stay relatively close to your circle of friends, you want a more affordable home. I wouldn't call it cheaper. The average price in Arlington is still about $800,000, but a more affordable home. Arlington's a great destination. And of course, then the first-time home buyers coming out of Boston don't want to go too far out in general, find Arlington a great destination. So when you look at Arlington, you look at key metrics for Arlington, you'll see that they're very strong, and that's because both of these groups are looking in that town. Now, having said they're looking in Arlington, they're of course also looking at the lower priced homes here in Lexington. So average price in Arlington about $800,000, average price in Lexington about 1.2, probably 1.3, or median about 1.3 this year. So you can see a little bit of a price difference, but still a large number of homes in those lower price points. And this is what's driving much of that market. So that's kind of the big picture, the big demographic change that we're seeing, and that's driving much of the housing market in this area. In terms of COVID, I've shown this graph a number of times before, and what we're trying to show with this is how many, or the characteristics of what happened as of kind of late February, early March, all the way through to where we are today. The red line, sorry, it's probably quite small, but the red line there of open houses, as you can see, they dropped off towards the end of March. That's really when the housing market really just stopped. There was this hiatus at the second half of March, and I'll show you a little bit more about that in a moment. What we found then that more and more buyers were looking at virtual showings. And that was the primary mechanism by which they viewed homes. Having viewed the home,
explain what a virtual showing is.
Looking at the video, looking at the photographs, looking at the 3D tour, anything really they could get hold of to give them a sense of that home without actually leaving their existing home, without stepping out the door, basically. So trying to do, and once they looked at all those things, those assets, if you will, then made a decision, yes, I want to go view that home, or no, I don't. I don't feel comfortable looking at that home because it's just not ticking all the boxes. So we saw the number of private showings decline. That went through to about early mid-May. At that point, we moved out of what we've shown in this diagram, that kind of lockdown phase, into what we characterize the buyer confidence returns phase. And what happened then is that buyers came back into the market earlier than we anticipated, but it was in kind of that first 2 weeks of May. Back into the market they came. They stayed hunkered down for April, but back they came in May. And so the number of showings increased. The number of open houses, although Danny will have much more to say about open houses, began to increase quite slowly, though, I have to say. But that buyer confidence came back into the market. And we're still in that phase. There is a high degree of buyer confidence today, and it's kind of continuing. And we can see...
And we'll go into why that is as well, in that we have more buyers than are normally typical at this time of year, which is dramatic.
It's pretty clear why buyer confidence returns. If you look at Massachusetts and you look at where we are, the grey line is the number of tests that they're doing. They're rising rapidly, as you can see. The orange line there is the number of confirmed cases. And we have, in Massachusetts anyway, kept that number low. And that's given, even though there is clearly economic hurt, there's no question about that. But for those people who do have continued employment, working from home, perhaps going into the office, less and less, of course, there is a high degree of confidence that we've managed to keep that new cases rate at a very low level for actually a very long time. And why shouldn't that continue? And so you can see why that buyer confidence return has come back. That graph came down, flattened the curve, as they say, and we kept it down, which of course is not the case in other parts of the United States. But here we've done very well in terms of that. What we looked at to try and get a sense of when the market would change, what was happening in the market, was focus on the number of listings. Because we thought if the buyers come back into the market, the sellers will also come back into the market. It's going to be buyer driven, not seller driven. And so what we looked at was the number of listings that came on. And in this graph, I've compared 2019 with 2020. So blue is 2019, orange is 2020. I split March into the first 2 and the last 2 weeks of the month. And you can see that in the first 2 weeks of March, we were at parity with 2020. Second half of March, with a lot less listings came on the market than we saw in 2020, even though we had a very mild winter, so we would have expected more to come on. Just one comment on this, as I'll talk about in a moment, we were expecting a lot more homes to come on the market in 2020. For some reasons I'll explain. So even though I'm comparing 2020 to 19, and so was it more, was it less? Trying to get a sense of what the impact of COVID was, we were expecting a lot more homes coming on the market in 20 versus 2019, as we saw a lot more homes on 2019 than in 2018. But as you can see, once April was low, and then
we stopped bringing homes on the market in April because we were really starting to see a change in the buyer activity the last couple of weeks in March, and buyers were getting a lot less comfortable coming out. So we just made a decision at that point in time. We talked to our sellers that we were planning on bringing on in April and said, you know what, we really think we should wait until we start seeing buyer confidence coming back again. And we saw that in the first week in May, because there's a few agents in the team and they're working with buyers, and we had a couple of vacant homes on the market. We were really able to keep a pulse on when the activity started again. So we reacted really quickly when we saw that happening in the beginning of May.
And you can see that in the data there that the number of listings in May was almost the same as 19. Once we got into June and July and actually followed into August, the number of listings in those months was higher than we saw in 19, making up for much of the lower number we saw earlier in the year. So if we look at it from a cumulative graph, blue is 2019, again, orange is 2020. You can see that we've just begun overall to exceed the number of listings we saw in 2020. Here we are. This graph was done 2019. This graph was done at the end of August, or 1st of September. So now we have the fall market coming up. We anticipate, even though we saw homes coming on the market in the fall 2019, we would anticipate as many, if not more, homes coming on the market in that kind of fall 2020 timeframe. So that's listings and getting a sense of, are we back to normal? Are we still a long way behind? And the answer is we're actually back to normal. The lower numbers we saw earlier in the year is now past us, and we're now, as you can see in this graph, we're actually about parity with 2019. You can see a little bit of the buyer confidence coming in the inventory graph. So the inventory graph is a snapshot of how many homes are available to buy.
At the beginning of the month.
Yep, at the beginning of the month. So what's interesting about this is, ignore 2020 for a second, look at 2019. You can see a lot more homes available to buy in 2019 over 2018. Now the reason for that was, if you remember back to 2018, end of 2018 actually, and throughout the early parts of 19, there was an awful lot of discussion around an economic downturn, at least a housing correction. That's where much of the conversation was. And what that meant is that sellers reacted to that, saying, I'm going to bring my home on the market earlier than I might necessarily have done. Perhaps the peak has already gone, so they brought their homes on the market. So sellers thinking, now's a good time to get it on because they don't want to miss the peak. Buyers, on the other hand, thinking, well, maybe prices are going to be lower. So why? I'm not necessarily going to jump into the market in the same way I did previously. And so what you can see here is a higher inventory level. That is more sellers, less buyers. Predominantly, in terms of that, there was way more sellers came on the market and a few less buyers, to kind of characterize that a bit more accurately. Most of that increase in inventory was driven by more sellers, not necessarily less buyers. So here we are in 2020. expecting again more homes to come on the market in 2020 versus 19 because that continual discussion around economic uncertainty that came in at the end of 19 and actually early 2022 before COVID even kicked in. And therefore, what you can see here is that the number of buyers is increasing and so the inventory level is declining. With more buyers in the market, of course, house prices rise, and you can see this is the median price for homes in 2020. Ignore February. That's usually an anomaly, a high month in February, because there were just so few homes that actually closed in February. So ignore that bump in February. But what you can see is that 1.2 was the median price in 2019, end of 19. Today we're running at somewhere just over 1.3 million. And that's because there are a lot more buyers in the market and a same number of sellers as we saw in 2019.
But it's also because the fall market hasn't been included in this data, and typically we don't see as much energy in the market, typically, yep. Because this year is definitely different, but we always see a higher median when we're, in the July-August time frame, because we're capturing the average per month for the whole of the spring market from the beginning of the year, and then it sort of sometimes starts easing back. We don't know what's going to happen this year because this year so far is...
Never say you don't know. We do know.
Okay, we do know. We'll go into this, but there's a huge amount of buyers in the marketplace at the moment, and not enough sellers.
That's for sure.
So and we'll tease that out a little bit coming on.
So that's kind of where we are. And so I teased Danny about don't tell them what we're going to say. We're going to predict what 2020 is going to do, but of course, guess what? I'm going to predict what 2020 does. Back in January, what we said was
and we should explain why back in January.
Why?
We do the market review.
Okay, because yes. So back in early in the year, January every year, we do a market review where we look at 19, characterize it, and we look further as well. We do realistically the last decade or so. And then we put our crystal ball on, look at our crystal ball and predict what we see for the rest, in this case, of 2020. And so back in January in the market review, if you go back and have a look at it, you'll see that we predicted there would be more sellers due to that economic uncertainty that was real, actually. We were in recession in February this year.
And it's not necessarily whether you're in it or not, it's the perception that one is going to happen, which is what was impacting 2019 a little bit as well.
Right.
So it's the perception of an economic downturn.
Now, so fast forward through COVID, where do we see ourselves today? Clearly, we don't see more sellers due to the economic uncertainty. If anything, we are seeing slightly less, about the same number. We'll see what happens in the fall market. We're seeing about the same number of sellers as we saw in 2019 because of the uncertainty, both of the economy and because of COVID. So where we are today, as best we can see, we'll know more at the end of this month in terms of how many homes came on in. September is usually a very strong month in terms of the fall market. So we'll have a better handle at the end of the month in terms of whether we're going to see a lot more homes. For my prediction is that we will probably see some more, no question. But I don't think we're going to get us back to the numbers that we were predicting in January. So we're going to see some more home sellers on the market, certainly not as many as we need, because we are seeing an increase in the number of buyers in the market, caused by many buyers moving out of the higher density Boston, Somerville, Cambridge market, moving out into the suburbs.
And that's, we had competing offers on a home about 2 weeks ago. We had 17 offers in on the home, and 10 of those buyers had written letters to the seller to try and sort of say, hey, choose my offer. And I'd say 9 out of those 10 letters talked about the fact that they were moving out from the city because of COVID, and They love the wide open spaces of Lexington. It's still a commute distance to Boston for them. So when life does get back to normal, they can still commute. But it was really interesting because that is really characterizing why we're seeing so many more buyers in the market right now compared to prior years. As you can sort of tell, we track stats up the wazoo. Is that a word? Anyway, up the wazoo. And this year is different. Okay, good.
We can see that this increased number of buyers in a kind of indirect way too. If you look at the number of rental properties in Boston or Cambridge or Somerville, it's much, much higher. In some cases, it's 3, sometimes 4 times higher than it was at this time last year.
Yeah.
Some of that clearly is due to the students not coming here, inevitably, but that's still a big increase, and that is renters in this case saying, you know what, I don't want to rent in Boston, I want to rent a little bit further out, maybe much further out, but certainly not feeling comfortable or confident or needing to rent in the center of Boston anymore. Remember that a lot of us are working from home, not requiring it or wanting it to rent a home in Cambridge or Boston in the center of the city, much preferring to come further out here, perhaps to the suburbs. So we can see that, say, in a somewhat indirect way by looking at the number of rentals that are on the market today in Boston and Cambridge. In Lexington, there are less rentals on the market today, so you can see that as well. So, in terms of the forecast, if we go back to January, back in the market review, we predicted that we would tend to a more balanced market, even between buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
As we come through to September, that's shifting much towards a seller's market now, with the increased number of buyers in the market. A caveat on that one, though. Homes still, and we'll talk more about pricing on that in a minute, but I want to caution sellers, as it were, that this is kind of gangbuster. We can put any kind of fancy price on a home and it will sell. That's not the case. Today's buyers are much more savvy than that. And we are seeing homes sitting on the market that ordinarily would sell, but they're overpriced. And so even though it's moving to a seller's market, caution on the part of the sellers that you need to price realistically for this market, then the buyers will react to that. Once you put a high price on it, because you think, hey, it's Lexington, everybody wants to move out of Boston, come here, then it will sit on the market, and we see that time and time again.
Well, even in 2019 and 2018, in our market reviews, we have a sale price to list price distribution graph. And it's really quite interesting. Even in a seller's market, which we've been in for quite a few years, we were still seeing 50% of the homes that came on the market were selling below the asking price. So it really is. It is so important to price realistically, because the buyers won't buy it if it's overpriced.
True. And so what we've seen, positive price appreciation, as I showed you with the median house price graph, went from about 1.2. Today it's probably over 1.3 million. So we're seeing that positive price appreciation. Not just here in Lexington, Arlington as well, as I mentioned before, a very strong market, seeing a similar reaction to this. First-time home buyers in this case moving into the Arlington market. We see the same characteristics there that we do here. So that's 2020. Now, okay, so all right. So what about 2021? This is a much more difficult prediction to make for a raft of different reasons. But if you just look at what's going on in the market today, right? We've clearly got the global pandemic. Not clear when that will come to an end. Certainly 2021. Is it early 2021? Is it mid 2021? Nobody can say with certainty today. That's for sure. We have a global recession. I also feel that the recession that we see is not over. As this lingers on and on, as we now move into the winter months, certainly here in the Northeast, that will kick in more than it is today. So even though it seems like we've been going through this for a long time, I just can't see the economy rebounding anytime soon for a whole range of different reasons. Much of the US economy is service-based. if you can't be in a restaurant, you're outside today. Gyms are outside. In fact, where we are in our offices, the gym has moved into the parking lot. That works in July and August and September. Clearly, it doesn't work in the middle of November or the middle of December. So there's a lot still to kind of play out with the overall economy moving forward. So we're not through this. We clearly have, the Black Lives Matter movement as well. Guess what? We have an election. I think most of us would like it to be out of the way, because that's there's a lot of uncertainty in that. Congress still talking about economic relief. There's a lot happening, in that kind of big picture, some of which will be resolved. The election anyway, the economic relief package will be resolved eventually. It must be. But those other ones will continue to kind of play out over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months. So there is a lot of uncertainty moving forward. But overall, today anyway, the housing market in Lexington has fared well. And there's no reason why that shouldn't continue into 2021. It will continue to fare well. The big question is, what will be the mix of buyers and sellers in the market? What will be the economic and what will be the political climate? The recommendation to today's sellers is this. There is so much uncertainty today. Clearly, it will play out over the next 2 months or so. Today, if you ask me to predict, I would say I understand the market in 2020 and I know where it's going over the next month or two. I can't say with any reliability what 2021 will bring. So if you're saying, I think it will be stronger in 2021, I'm not sure I could back that up today. I'm really not sure. I know where we are today. It's a very strong market today, specifically for sellers, tough market for buyers. I'm not sure we can say with any certainty that will continue into 2021. It's clear that Lexington will still be a strong market. What will be the mix of buyers and sellers as we move into that period is kind of the big unknown for us. It will, I think, realistically, I think it will be November before we really have a sense of that. So today, 2020, now is a very strong market. I can't say that with any reliability in terms of 2021. So that's I hedged my bets there, but I give you as best, my opinion as best I could in terms of what the market is today and where I think 2021 will be.
Well, my advice when I'm going to see sellers, on a daily basis, to talk to them about, when and how and all of this sort of stuff, when they're asking 2020, 2021, absolutely 100%. My advice to them is 2020. We know what the market's doing now. We know it's strong. We just don't know 2021. We just don't know if it's going to be like this. So, far better to come on the market in a known environment rather than a don't know environment.
So, there's the numbers. So what does selling in 2020 or the remainder of 2020 look like? Let's kind of dig into the details of this one. And we characterize it in 5 ways, the 5 keys to maximizing your sale price. The first one is around smart decisions, and we've talked a lot about that. I've got a little bit more to say in a moment, but it's really about understanding where the market is and knowing what you know and knowing what is just too difficult to predict, as is 2021.
And these 5 keys apply no matter what market you're in or what time of year you're in. It applies, whether you're in a buyer's market, balanced market, or a seller's market. These are the things that will help you get the highest price for your home.
Right. We're going to go into much more detail on these. So I'm just going to run through them, talk a little bit about smart decisions, then Danny's going to kind of open the covers on preparation and staging. But it's really about understanding the market. It's about preparing the home for market. Preparation and staging is that. Creating a product that today's buyers want. That's key. Remember, we're looking to maximize our sale price here. We want to create a product that the maximum number of buyers want and therefore will pay top dollar for, realistically. You then need to spread it out, spread it as wide as you can. I talked before about what virtual showings are about. It's about hitting all of the marketing channels. And then finally, it's about making this a seamless process through teamwork, excellence through teamwork as we describe it, making that whole process look like it runs like a proverbial Swiss watch, if you will. Let me quickly talk a little bit about the teardown market.
Because the next phase is preparation, and a lot of people sort of say, but I don't need to worry about this because I think my home's a teardown. This is why we want to add this at this point in time, is because it may not be a teardown.
Is it a teardown? That is the question. Is my home a teardown? Perennial question that we get asked, a lot, as you can imagine. And it's worth thinking about, well, when is it actually a teardown? When is it actually a teardown? And the answer to that question is, it's a teardown when the land value is higher than what a home buyer would pay for the home. Now, remembering that teardowns in general are lower priced homes here in Lexington. They can be higher, but that's rare. Most of the time they're relatively low priced in comparison to the market in general. Having said that, remember what I just said about first-time home buyers moving out of Boston out here to the suburbs. They're looking for, guess what, a reasonably priced home. They're looking at Arlington with an average price of $800 for single family, $600 for condominiums. They would like to be in Lexington too, at somewhere between $600,000 and $800,000. That's the majority of teardowns are in that price point. So the price point, so back to this, what a home buyer would pay for it.
But you've forgotten about the downsizers. The downsizers who are in Lexington, you were about to talk about it. No. The downsizers who are in Lexington that have a bigger home and want to sell and get into a more modest home, but still stay in the same area because this is where all their friends are. This is where they know where the restaurants are. They're also looking for that price point home. So, this is prime home buyer territory.
Right. So those teardowns are priced at a value where there are a lot of home buyers. Ultimately, that's what it says. So it's important to understand too who's actually telling you it's a teardown. There's clearly the builders are telling you your house is a teardown, but we get that. They would like to buy it without any competition. So a builder will come in, I'll give you top dollar for your home. Hold on a minute, why would you? You're the only bidder on my home. So the builders, from the builder's perspective, if you will, we kind of know where they're coming from. They would like to buy it for the lowest possible price they can. We get that. That's kind of clear, right? Because the lower the price they buy it, the higher the profit they make. Straightforward. What's not so straightforward is when an agent says to you, I think your home may be a teardown. Why don't I introduce you to a builder that I know? You guys work out the price. You figure it out. You guys talk about it. I think this is probably the best thing for you to do at this point. So what's happening behind the scenes there is this. The agent and the builder have a relationship, perhaps unknown to you. At least not explicitly make you aware of. And so once the builder buys your home, the agreement is that the agent will then list the new construction that's built. The ratios here are a teardown is about a third of the price that the final home will sell. So imagine your home is $600,000. The agent is foregoing the commission on $600,000, knowing that they will get the commission on a $1.8 million home. So it's not quite as clear when an agent says, I'll introduce you to a builder, I think your home may be a teardown. So there's a little bit of a buyer beware there, or seller beware, I guess, in this case, in both those cases. One very explicit, when the builder will offer you, the other one not quite so explicit, if you will. Interesting to look at a couple of examples here, or an example here. This was a home where we were asked the question, is this home a teardown? And it's interesting in this case because the builders had already had a look at it, and multiple builders in this case. Normally it's usually one, but in this case it was multiple. And they had offered, the highest offer they got for the house was $770,000.
Which we didn't know about at the time.
Right.
So.
This is too high a number in terms of smartening up for the general, but in this case, the home owner spent about $20,000 to smarten up the home. It needed quite a lot of work, as you can see here. That's a much bigger number than we would ordinarily recommend, and Danny will talk about this in a moment. We listed it for $839,000. So we're already ahead of the game here because builders are offering $770. We listed at $839. We're already up $70,000. What happened though in the end when we put it on the market was 7 offers and it sold for $900,000. Remember, that's only just above the average home price in Arlington. So very much in the first-time home buyer's price point, or territory, if you will. So a net increase to the seller of $110,000. So we just wanted to give you one example where the question was asked: is my home a teardown? And the reality is, no, it actually wasn't in this case.
And we should qualify too that when you look at these examples, a large portion of it was paint. Some of it we did have to replace some flooring, and sheet vinyl worked fine. There were a couple of minor issues that we had to get tradesmen in. But as you can see with these examples of the kitchen, paint, it was paint. We left the pink laminate alone. We left the appliances alone. We just replaced the floor in there. We did replace the light fixtures. So they're it's not us going in and putting in a brand new kitchen or putting in brand new bathrooms. It's none of that. It's just providing advice on the highest return on investment tasks that you can do around a home. And it was really quite funny because by the end of it, the seller was suggesting, well, what about if I do this? And what about if I do this? And what about if I do this? And we had to say, no more. No, this is enough. And we got a great response, a great result for him. But that's an example of where a home buyer, we typically see probably 95% of the homes that come on the market or are sold to a builder, 95% of them, a home buyer would have paid more for them. So it really is absolutely, clear.
So based on all our experience with, should I sell to a builder? Should I sell to a home buyer? We came up with a scheme, a program.
It's not a scheme.
A program called Buyer or Builder. And the idea here is that we will look at the home and we will get 2 numbers for you. The first number would be what a builder will pay for it. And the other number is how much a home buyer would pay for it, perhaps with a small amount of updates. Having got those 2 numbers, you are now in a much better position to answer the question, should I sell to a home buyer or should I sell to a builder? So that's the idea behind the buyer or builder. Information is power. And so giving you those 2 numbers allows you to make a judgment, an educated decision, a smart decision in terms of, yes, I should sell to a home buyer or yes, I should sell to a builder. So the buyer or builder scheme, that's how that program works.
And actually, we've been doing these for a number of years, and I think we've only ever had 2 where a builder would have paid about the same or a little bit more than a home buyer would. So it's absolutely unequivocally the buyers will pay more money.
In most cases.
Yep.
In most cases. There are cases where that isn't the case, but in the majority of cases, a buyer will pay more than a builder. So, enough of me.
So let's get on to how have things changed in 2020? Like, what are we looking at when we bring a home on the market? What's going on? So we thought we'd give you a little bit of an idea of some of the changes. This year, from this point on, we don't believe until at least the end of this year, we're not going to be doing any more open houses. Now, some agents are, and they're doing a very much a disservice to their sellers, because what happens is at those open houses, really you can't let more than 1 buyer group into the home at any one point in time. Now, at an open house, let's say 8 buyer groups arrive at the same time. Well, if 1 buyer group's in there having a look at the home and they're 20 minutes later, then they come out and then the next buyer group goes in. By the time you get to that 8th buyer group, and 8 buyer groups at an open house is a small number typically, you're well into 2 or 3 hours later. The buyers are not going to wait. They're just not going to wait. They are going to leave in disgust because they're standing outside in the sun, they're standing outside in the rain, they're standing outside wanting to get into this home, and there's other things that they could be doing better. And once we've lost them, we're not going to get them back again. So it's not from the perspective of the health issues from an open house perspective, you know, how dangerous it is and all of this sort of stuff. It's more from the fact that you can lose the buyer's interest in the home. So, and we see that week after week after week, because and we mentioned that we have buyer's agents in our team. They will come and tell us horror stories on our normal Monday meeting of how they turned up with their buyers at an open house, right, and there were masses of people there. In one instance, just a couple of weeks ago, at one of our agents, when Jenna turned up to an open house, and there was a whole queue of people outside, but the listing agent was just letting people in, and there were about 4 different buyer groups on the first floor, and then she said there was about 5 different buyer groups on the second floor and people on the stairs. And she and her buyers walked in and they saw how many people there were inside and how difficult it was, and they just turned around and left. They lost the buyers, and we hear stories time after week after week after week of this. So it is far better to allow private showings. Now, all of the serious buyers have agents. All of them have agents, the serious buyers. So they make private appointments. The fact that there's no open houses is not reducing the number of buyers seeing your home. It's just making it so that it's a more organized showing schedule. We had one home that we bought on 5 weeks ago. It had 82 private showings in the 4.5 days that the home was on the market. We bought it on the market Thursday afternoon and reviewed offers on it on Tuesday. And in that period of time, there were 82 private showings. That's 82 buyers got in to see it. They wouldn't have seen it if we had have done open houses instead. We're not doing physical feature sheets. We started seeing at the end of March people being very uncomfortable and not taking our physical feature sheets. We still do the feature sheets, but we actually have them virtually online on our website, on MLS and all of that. So they can still see that information. It's just not a physical copy of something. Our marketing is all virtual. We were just talking before that we call it virtual assets or digital assets, and we really need to come up with a better name for it because people don't really know what we mean when we say that. It's the video, it's the 3D tour, it's the website, it's the floor plan. All of these components that allow you to see into a home and see what it looks like without being there physically, they are our virtual or digital assets for the home. We would recommend completing a seller's disclosure. Massachusetts is a voluntary disclosure state, so a seller doesn't need to disclose. And typically we don't see as many sellers disclosing. You know, maybe while we're in this COVID time, it might be, advisable to do a seller's disclosure because it gives buyers a lot more warm and fuzzies about the home because they won't possibly have necessarily been able to get an inspector in beforehand, or gotten their parents in to come and have a look at the home, or gotten a contractor who's a friend to come and see the home during the open houses. It might make them a little bit more comfortable about what they're buying. We are definitely seeing the buyer behavior having changed from the end of March. Don't know that it's going to change back again, because we're seeing so many more buyers looking at the digital assets online first and then scheduling a private showing. Even just a few weeks ago, back in April, a home came on the market and I had some buyers who were interested in it because they loved the location. They asked me, is there a video, is there a 3D tour, is there floor plans, et cetera, et cetera. And I checked with the agent, no, there wasn't any of that. And they decided they weren't willing to even go and have a look at it because they didn't want to risk their health going and having a look at a home that they had no idea what was inside, because there were very few photos as well. So they didn't make make an effort. Now, I did end up a few days later getting them in to see it because I Zoomed them. I zoomed them?
No, that wasn't good.
Yeah,
I have no idea what that means.
I took them, I went to the home with my phone and showed them around the home virtually with my phone while they were on the other end so they could see what was inside. And then as it turned out, it did meet their needs. I got them in for a private showing and we ended up buying the home. But the key thing there is that they weren't even going to look at the home physically because they didn't have a good understanding of what the home was like. So the digital assets are so important. Anyway, closings are all virtual. There's no physical presence so much. The attorneys are doing most things virtually. The registry is all virtual, so we're doing that. So now the next thing, we anticipate what we're seeing for the remainder of 2020. When you talk about preparation, and we'll get into this in a sec, preparation, contractors are willing to work in homes. There was a period of time where they weren't willing to go into homes and sellers weren't willing to have strangers in the home. Their home was their safe place. This is where I'm safe. We don't have anyone come into the home. We're safe staying where we are. So they didn't want to have strangers coming in. It's definitely changed. There are still some sellers that are a little bit reluctant having people in, but the majority are fine with it. Staging, we are back to normal pretty well. We are doing virtual consultations. Our staging coordinator is doing virtual consultations. Sometimes she's going physically into the home to see the home initially. And then the whole crew come in to stage the home. But we do ask at the moment, our requirement or our request is that sellers not be present when staging's happening, just for the safety of all, and to have it happen faster and get the sellers back into their home. Showings, we're not overlapping buyer groups. So there's typically one buyer group in the home at any one point in time. They can schedule a time that they want to get in, and that's their time. So let's get on to preparation. We're back to the 5 keys, maximizing sales price. Let's talk about the preparation phase. No one answer fits all. Every house is different. Some houses don't need much at all, might be just decluttering. Some might need some touch-up paint. Some we would recommend doing a lot of painting because typically buyers these days, they don't know who to call when something needs to be done to a home. So they will pay more money when they walk into a home and they think all they need to do is walk in, unpack their suitcase, and that's it. They can enjoy the home because they don't know who to call. So if we can get those minor cosmetics done, that will give a whole lot more sale price. We're not going to come in and suggest $2,000 worth of work to be done to get a $2,000 increase in sales price. I mean, that's just busy work. You don't need to do that. We might suggest something that would cost $5,000 to do and will increase the price by about $50,000. That's well worth doing. We're never going to come in and say, replace the kitchen or replace the bathroom, do major renovations. We're just not going to do that. There's other things you can do to get a bigger bang for the buck. But if you're going to be living in your home for two plus more years, then why not do the renovations now and you get to enjoy them for the next couple of years rather than do a renovation and then sell. That just doesn't make sense. We know this personally because before we got into real estate, 20 years ago down in DC, 25 years ago, I don't know, it's down in DC. We were...
I'm not that old, but can't be that long. Can't be that long.
Yeah. So anyway, we were living in a home and we bought another home. So we planned to rent the home that we had been living in. And the kitchen was pretty old, so we thought we need to renovate. And so we renovated the kitchen for the tenants. that was sort of silly.
Yeah, you're right.
So
that
we,
was stupid.
we
That
know
was
this,
stupid. You're right. Yeah,
so we know this from personal experience. Don't do it for the tenants.
Right.
Do it for yourself and take the enjoyment of it yourself first. Then we got into real estate and learnt.
Right.
But anyway, a lot of the high return on investment tasks are not high dollar. They're not high dollar activities to do. So they are quite cost effective. And we'll give you the advice on those. The advice on the highest ROI activities. Also, advice on the priority order, because there are certain things that will help, but some will help more than the others. And if you feel energetic and you're still busy, you've done these and you might want to tackle these, then that's great. But don't tackle those first and not do these ones. These ones are the important ones first. And we'll also give you advice on projects not worth doing. There's a whole lot of things that are not worth doing that will cost you money and you may not even get the return. One of the things that comes to mind immediately is replacing the windows. The buyers would love to have double paned windows and new windows, but if you bought a home for $700,000 and the very next day you put $30,000 worth of windows in, the day after that you're still only going to sell it for $700,000. So there's a certain number of things that, there's better money to be spent. There's better returns on the money that you're spending doing other things. So we'll give you that advice as well. It can range from, we'll just provide you contractor resources, give you advice on who to call, who's responsive at the moment, who's looking for work, who does a good job. We could assist you in getting quotes for work to be done. We can assist you with coordinating the contractors. We can oversee the project in conjunction with you. It's your call as to the level of assistance that you want. We have it range from, we'll send you contractors and you'll organise, the people organise the stuff themselves and are happy to do that because they want to be involved, to people who have told us that they just want to be interested observers. You do it all. Do it all for me. Let me know, just send me the quotes. We'll choose a quote, but you organise it all. So we can do it the whole degree, the gamut of opportunities, the gamut of options. Okay, so here's an example of one. Wallpaper. Part of that whole thing about the buyers walking in the door, not knowing who to call, whenever a buyer sees wallpaper on the walls, they want it off, but they don't know who to call. So if you've taken the wallpaper off and you've painted the room, it feels so much fresher, as you can see with this before and this after. So that's a biggie. Give you a good return on investment there. Some folks have fairly strong colours in some rooms. Typically we see it in the dining room. If it's in a half bath, that's okay. You don't need to do anything with that, because sometimes if someone's put a dark colour on the walls in a half bath, or in some areas it's been because it's been styled that way, and the buyers are not going to not buy a home because the half bath has got a strong colour on it. But when you look at the dining room, the main living areas, that's where they do get turned off a little bit. So putting some paint on is key. Another one that a lot of people don't realise is that wood cabinetry in a kitchen is pretty passé. The buyers don't like it. And part of this is because the builders, and this has been going on now for probably the last 5 to 7 years, when the builders are doing new construction, they're putting white kitchens in. And they're also putting, pale or lighter coloured granite countertops. Well, the challenge is when a buyer walks into a home that has a wood kitchen, it feels dated to begin with. So here's a before of a home. It had been on the market with another agent for 103 days, not sold, unsold. We came in and we painted the kitchen cabinets, so it's exactly the same kitchen cabinets. We didn't do anything with the granite. We did switch out a couple of the appliances and put stainless steel on it. But if you notice, we had competing offers on this home. Sold it for way over the asking price. Before, with the wood kitchen, it was sitting on the market unsold, not happening. So this is where paint gives a tremendous return on investment. Because the buyers walk in and they think, oh, the kitchen's new. Well, it's not really new, it's just got paint on it, but it feels new. Here's another example of painted kitchen cabinets. Now, all we did in this home was paint the kitchen cabinets, and we actually painted the home as well. Will I tell the story about this? I'll tell the story about this.
I've heard it before, but go for it.
Really?
I've heard the story before, yeah.
So this was a home, the before of that was where a seller was getting ready to come on the market in a couple of weeks' time with a different agent. And their son had gotten us in to go and talk to them, and wandering through the home, I sort of said, you really can't come on the market like this. You really need to get some paint happening. And that was because they lived, this driveway was the steepest driveway I'd ever seen. I'm a pretty confident driver, and I wouldn't even drive up the driveway. I would park at the bottom and take all the stairs up to the house and just stay where I was. My thoughts were, when this was happening, when it would come on the market and no painting had been done, no presentation of the home had been done in this before instance, the buyers would pull up at the bottom of the driveway, they'd look at the driveway, and then they'd look at the pictures online and they'd say, no, let's just keep on going. With paint, we figured that they would pull up at the bottom of the driveway, look at the driveway, and then look at the photos. Yeah, let's go and have a look. We ended up with competing offers on the home, and it sold for more money than a similar house on a flat piece of land would have paid for. So you got to present the home and make the buyers want to move in. One of the things that a lot of folks don't realize is that there's the older tiles, the orange tiles, the dark blue tiles, the pink tiles, the tiles that we typically see often that have, a black trim around the top, that can be painted. Benjamin Moore sell a bonding primer, and I don't know if you can see here, but this is exactly the same, but it's been painted. The tiles have been painted, and we just took the wallpaper off and painted a little, with a slight blue tone to it, because we didn't do anything with the floors as well, so we needed to tie in the color there. But this bathroom, sure, it feels a little dated because of the fixtures, but the buyers look at that and think, we can just move in. We don't need to do anything. Whereas with an older bathroom like this, the buyers are thinking, we need to renovate the bathroom before we even move in. We can't move in like this. So it's very much a case of having it so that the buyer can delay their thoughts about renovating until they've been in the home for a few years. Here's another example. Again, you've got your blue tiles, but check out the vanity. The vanity is a laminate vanity. Well, that paints up pretty good too. So the vanity is exactly the same as what it was, just with paint on, with painted tiles and painted wall. This, again, even though it's an older bathroom, the buyers we had competing offers on this one. Here's an example where this is an interesting example, because this was a home that was on the market with another agent for about 4 months, 5 months. And we came in and sort of said, look, we really need to paint the kitchen. And the kitchen had nice cabinetry, but it was a little dated. The home was built in the 90s, I think. It was a little dated. And the seller agreed that we would paint the kitchen. And I didn't suggest painting any other cabinetry around the home. And she was sort of a little reserved, a little, not sure about this, painting the kitchen cabinetry, not really reluctant. Well, but it's the seller's choice as to whether you do this or not. Anyway, she finally decided, yes, let's do it. And it was really quite interesting because after it was finished, she said, oh, that turned out so well. What about we do the master bathroom as well? So that's why the master bathroom was done. But you can see the difference in it. It's a much fresher appeal because it's more modern what the builders are doing with new construction. But it's not just inside, it can be outside as well. So this example, it had been for sale by owner, then it had been on the market for over a year with another agent, then it was a for sale by owner again, and then they contacted us. And what we got them to do is we took down the scraggly sort of trees, but we got them to just paint the trim outside around, the windows and the garage doors and the front door. We made it a more modern looking house by having the white contrasting trim with the blue instead of, this was sort of more like a burgundy. That's not going to fly, obviously. We bought it on the market, we had competing offers and sold it for over asking price. So it's not just inside, sometimes there's some things that we can do to the outside to make it more appealing. When you talk about outside, here's another example. Landscaping makes a huge difference. This is a pretty old, the home was about 20 years old. It was new construction back 20 years ago, but now that's not new construction anymore. And the plants had grown so big and they were blocking out the light in the home. You couldn't even see the side entry there because there's a side entry. Yep, there's a door there.
It looked like it. Must have been really dark inside, I imagine, with those trees.
It was
blocking all the
dark.
light from the windows too.
It was incredibly dark. But by taking those trees down and planting newer shrubbery and things, remember I was saying that, well, maybe I didn't say this, buyers would love to buy new construction. They would love to buy new construction. Typically, sometimes they can't afford to buy new construction. But it's a psychological trigger when you see new plants, because new plants are what you see at new construction. So when the buyers saw photos of this on MLS, this is pretty new, because look at the new plants. And we had competing offers on that home again. So that was, landscaping can make a difference. Actually, I should further explain. This was actually a listing photo when we first came on the market. I'd suggested these things to the seller, and as I mentioned, it's the seller's choice as to whether you do them or not. It's just our suggestions. The seller chose not to do anything, and I got him to agree that we'd come on the market his way, and if we didn't sell, he'd do some of the things that I'd suggested, and then we'd come on the market my way. And this was coming on the market his way, and we didn't get any activity at all on the home. We didn't even have a private showing, and it was on the market for about 3 months. Then we took it off the market, did some work to the home inside and out.
Over winter, remember, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
And actually, I don't remember. And then we bought it on the market our way and had competing offers on the home and sold it for way over asking price. So it does work. It does work. Now let's talk about staging. Staging is one of the keys. Sorry, I need to have a drink. Okay.
Would you like me to take over?
No.
Oh,
Staging is one of the keys to maximizing sales price. Now, I've got some quotes here that are good metrics, I thought, to use. So one of them is 83% of buyers' agents said a staged home helped buyers visualize the home as a future home, and that's according to NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors. The other one is 25% of buyers agents said potential buyers increased their offer between 1 and 5% on a staged home. Now, let's talk about that for a minute, because if our average, you're going to have to help me with this. If our average, no, I think I'm okay. 1%. If our average is 1.2.
You do maths on the fly here.
Yeah,
this
I know.
Is a brave
I hate
move.
doing maths on the fly.
This is a brave move. It's like that,
a 1% increase is $12,000. And a 5% increase is $60,000. That's a dramatic, and we see this time and time again, but that's according to National Association of Realtors. Staging makes a huge difference. 85% of homes surveyed were sold for 6 to 25% more than homes that were not staged, according to, Professional Home Stagers Organization. But let's talk a little
Before
bit
you
more
go there, I have a question
staging.
about that.
Yes.
So I am seeing more and more, I think it's probably fair to say I'm seeing more and more, listing agents virtually staging a home.
Absolutely pointless.
Why is that?
So and it's pretty obvious to tell sometimes better than others. But when you see MLS photos or you see a website or something like that that has nice furniture in it, fantastic. The buyer wants to go and see it. They don't know that it's virtually staged. So now you've got the buyer's interest in the home. Ooh, this could be a good one. Let's go and see this. Right. They turn up to the home and it's empty inside. Now, all of a sudden, you've let those buyers down and they can't imagine themselves living in the home because it's empty. It's stark. It's cold. So you got their excitement up about getting them in to see the home, and then they're deflated.
And they can't visualize how they would work in the home.
Typically, you get less for a home that is virtually staged because you've let the buyers down. And once you've let the buyers down and their hopes, their dreams are crushed, they're not going to pay as much money for the home. They're not even going to typically make an offer on the home because it's got to take an awful lot of building them back up again to the point that they...
Which is hard to do. Because I've also seen
once you've lost them, you've lost them.
You see them in the photographs, and then maybe they've got a video, maybe they've got a 3D tour, and there's no staging in it. Much more difficult to put virtual staging in a 3D tour than it is in just plunk in some homes. So I just start seeing that more and more, and it struck me that when you go in there, where's the furniture gone? Yeah,
you've lost the buyers, and again, it's all about getting the buyer's attention and keeping the buyer's attention. And with virtual staging, no, you've lost them. Same with open houses, you've lost them. Right. There's too many components where you can lose the buyers, and you just don't want to do that. So staging is really important to us. We even have our own truck. If you see this, I think we might be looking at putting a new wrap on that sometime.
We'll
show you.
We might.
So
right now you can't miss it.
Yes.
Can't miss it.
Our dog is on the side and he's down there on the rug, sound asleep, listening to us talk. I hope you're not sound asleep listening to us talk. Sorry?
Yes, too.
So what does staging consist of? We're doing virtual consultations at the moment with our staging coordinator. They're going very well. Depersonalize and declutter.
What does that mean?
A virtual consultation. Okay.
What does that actually mean?
So our staging coordinator has severe asthma. While we're in COVID, we don't really want to expose her to too many strangers.
But how does it work?
I'm about to get there. Yeah, so this is why we're doing a virtual consultation. Normally she does in-person consultations. But there's a couple of ways. If I'm going in to look at your home and going to do a market analysis on your home, I will always ask if I can take a video while I'm in there, and it's only for our team. And if you decide to use us, then, which I don't know why you wouldn't, oh God, that sounded terrible.
Keep going. Yeah. You still haven't explained it. Keep going. I'm still waiting for the explanation, Debbie. Come on.
So I will then share it with our staging coordinator, and she can work through what needs to be done or what she would recommend doing, and then she'll come up with a big description of each room, what she would recommend doing in each room. But sometimes what she will do is the seller will FaceTime her as the seller's walking around the home, and Christina's explaining to the seller while she's in each room and sort of saying, well, you know, can you point it over in that corner? What's that? Maybe we can move that. So there's a discussion. So it's one of two ways. Sometimes it's a combination of both. So she's very familiar with your home, even not having physically stepped foot in it by the time they come into stage. So did that answer it now? Okay, but depersonalizing and decluttering is you may as well start now. We call it advanced packing. You're going to need to pack when we sell your home, so why not pack and put things away in boxes and get them into the garage or get them into the basement or put them into a storage unit, in advance. It's a lot easier to do it in advance. It's done by our in-house professional staging team. We also have part-time stagers and got the truck. And the staging furniture and accessories are based on your need. We have to stress, staging your home does not mean you need to empty all of your furniture out and move it somewhere. That is not what it means. If the home is vacant, we will come in and fully stage the home. With every room will have furniture in it and be staged nicely. In fact, we're doing one tomorrow, a vacant home. But if most of the time homes have people living in them, so we might recommend a couple of pieces being moved. If there's too much in a room, we might bring in lamps, we might bring in matching bedside tables. You know, it depends on each home as to what you've got and what we would recommend doing, because it would look good. Some homes we really don't need to do much in, but you know, it all depends on each home. So staging, it's why we do it is it creates an emotional response from a buyer, and that's critical to getting the highest price. I have a story. We bought a home on the market on Woburn Street last year, the year before. I was there during the open house Saturday and Sunday, and on Sunday I was standing in the living room, and one of the buyers was just chatting with me and things, and he's looking around and he said, "This house is going to go way over asking price." And I said, "Look, we don't underprice homes, we realistically price homes." And he said, "Yeah, I know, but you make the home so that all of us buyers want to buy the home." I said, "Yeah, that's exactly what we do." And that's what happened. So it's getting that emotional response from the buyers gets us the highest price. There's no cost to the seller. None. Did I mention there's none? Because we invest our resources to sell your home for more money. We've got about 16 housefuls worth of furniture. We've got the truck, we've got the team. This is us doing this to get your the highest price for your home. Here's a couple of examples. This one was on the market for 206 days unsold with another agent. This is the dining room, by the way. But as you can tell, a lot of buyers would look at that and not know what room that is. There's no chandelier hanging down. You can see where the plate is, but a buyer looking at that room would have no idea what it is. Well, guess what? With furniture in the home, now they know it's a dining room, and so it was on the market unsold for a long time. We came on the market, we staged it, this was where we got the term interested observer from a seller. He just looked at us and said, "I just want to be an interested observer. I want you to do everything," which we did. We did some minor updates, but we had competing offers on this home, and that's what happened. Here's the same home. This is the living room. It looks much more attractive when you've got furniture in the room. New construction. At the end of last year, when the market was starting to soften, this is before COVID kicked in, this home came on the market beginning of September. And it's a beautiful, high quality home by a builder, a local builder in town. And he typically does stunning quality homes. Well, look, with no furniture in, it doesn't really look fantastic. But with furniture in the home, it just pops. And this home, priced at just over 2.7, sold for just on 2.7 3 weeks after it came on the market in a softening market. So the presentation is so important. Now, you might notice some of these pieces of furniture. The home was built in the Studio McGee design style. So we did some research and we found out what the Studio McGee design style is, and we went and bought some additional furniture that complemented that design style. So we have contemporary furniture, we have traditional furniture, we have modern furniture, we don't go in and put furniture in a home that doesn't complement the style of the home. Here's this home where we painted the outside of the trim. I don't know whether you remember, it had been a for sale by owner, then on the market for a year. This was the family room. Didn't really look very appealing, but here's the family room with some furniture in it. This is that same home. This is when you have a description of a home, a unique layout, flexible floor plan. What are some of the other catchwords that we see that imply a poor
unique
layout?
And flexible are the two words.
Unique and flexible.
Yeah, those are the two words that are the.
So here, this
kiss of
one.
death for a listing.
Yeah, the front door was over here. This is the living room. Here's the dining room, and the buyers would have walked through this and thought, "What do I do with this room? I don't know what." And when a buyer starts thinking, "I don't know what I would do with a room," you've lost them. So what we did when we came in, we staged the front room as a living room. We staged the middle room as the dining room. It's got the chandelier, so it was the dining room. And we staged this room as the pre and or post dinner drinks room. And it was defining how you would use and how you would live in the home to the buyers. So they walk through, "Oh wow, this is really cool. This is where we can have guests over, and this is, after we've had some dinner, we can just sit back and have a dessert wine or something." It defined how you could use, how the floor plan could work for them. And as I said, this one had competing offers. So now let's get into marketing. Marcus, do you want to do a little bit of marketing? Are you doing the marketing? Oh,
you do it. Go for it.
Okay.
No, go for it.
Okay, marketing. So, and you can do excellence through teamwork. Maybe.
I can. No. I'm going to take over in a minute.
Okay.
I've sat here quietly for way too long.
All right. So we want to talk about, does marketing matter in this environment? Absolutely, unequivocally, yes. Virtual assets, again, what we describe by virtual assets are your 3D tour, your video, your website, your floor plan. All of those things are absolutely key to getting the highest price. What we've also identified is that there's a direct correlation between, and we say, the virtual asset views and private showings. What I mean by that is that if we see 40 plus views of the 3D tour in the first couple of days of a home coming on the market, typically that correlates tightly with about 20 plus private showings on the home in the 5 days, with a home coming on the market on the Thursday and reviewing offers on the Tuesday. We typically see 20 plus private showings if we've seen 40 plus views of the 3D tour. But there's also a direct correlation between the number of private showings and offers. If we're seeing 20 plus private showings in 5 days, typically we're seeing 2 or more offers. Now you might wonder, how do I know how many views of the 3D tour we get? Well, we released an app we released an app. We released an app that you can get on
App Store.
The App Store and Google Play. And as you can see down the bottom, you've got home, you've got sell.
Why don't you actually show it to them?
Yeah, I will in a sec. Okay, yeah, let me show it to them. Okay, so this is my phone. Okay, this is a home that we bought on the market a few weeks ago. So you can see the button at the top where it's the pre-listing. This is telling the seller when all of these things are happening, when things were going on, what was going on. And we came on the market August the 13th. Yeah, so that was about 3 weeks ago. Then we were on market. Now, what we have here, and this is real-time stats. This is real-time stats for the seller when the home comes on the market. So we can see on August the 13th, there were 97 views of the 3D tour. August the 14th, there were 130 views of the 3D tour. Then it went to 34 and then 38 and then 109. So already we're seeing a huge number of, more than the 40 plus. But what we can also do is we can go and have a look at how many people were looking at the floor plans. We can go and see how many people were looking at the videos. Cool. We can go and see how many people were looking at, come on, click down. Marcus got his fat finger in the way.
Yeah.
And then the brochure views. So we can tell what activity is happening on the home. And this is from many, many different sources. This is from Zillow, this is from MLS, this is from our website, this is from realtor.com, this is from coldwellbanker.com, this is from redfin.com. These stats aggregate all of those views on the home. Now, with that, you can see with our 3D tour and the direct correlation that we were talking about, we had 97 and 130 on the first 2 days. We had 55 private showings on the 5 days that the home was on the market, and we ended up with 17 offers on the home, and it sold for way over asking. So we can track and you can see on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, what sort of reaction your home is getting to the general market. Then what we do is we've got the accepted offer phase. So this takes you through, who are the attorneys, when is the appraisal scheduled, when is the final water reading scheduled. As you can tell, this home is still coming on. We have the buyer visits. Buyers wanted to get in and see the home on September the 15th because they wanted to get a tree removal estimate. So you can actually track what's going on with your home. And then the app talks about all of these different things there, and we can go on to selling, buying, and a whole lot more. So if you're a seller, that's how you find out how many views are happening on your home and whether the buyer marketplace, the buyer groups are responding to the price at that point in time, because we do the same marketing for every home. We're doing the same preparation and the same staging for every home. So at that point, the only variable then is what price we've come on the market at. So we can tell fairly quickly. We had a home that we came on middle of May, and I think it was on the came on the market on the Thursday, and the Saturday the seller called me and said, "We're not seeing the right number of views, are we, of everything?" And I said, "No, we're not. We're not getting anywhere near what we should have." And he sort of said, "Should we drop the price now?" And I said, "Let's wait until Tuesday. Let's see. We only need one buyer. Let's not be hasty with this." On the Tuesday, we didn't get any offers. And they said, "What do we do?" And I said, "We need to drop back into the market value range I gave you and get the buyer activity, because even if a seller wants to come on the market at a higher price than what we believe the value is, we will absolutely come on the market at that price. But here's the market value range. And so we dropped the price back into the market value range. We got a huge amount of activity the next 5 days, and we had competing offers on it on the Tuesday, and ended up selling it for the original price that it came on the market the week before, which was over the market value. So anyway, that's Marcus.
Finally.
Yes. I'm going to have a drink.
So now what I want you to do, instead of showing you or telling you about all the different components within the marketing package, I thought what I'd show you is kind of how they all fit together. But clearly there are photographs, there are videos, 3D tours, floor plans. I mean, today's buyer expects, demands to some extent, all the information about a home. And so the key to marketing is to giving them access to all of this information, because remembering that they may make a buying decision at the open house, not that we have them, at the private showings, but realistically it's afterwards that they actually make that decision. When they're looking at the videos afterwards, where they're looking at the 3D tour, that's when it kind of cements, yes, I like what I saw, now I really like what I'm seeing today. So photographs clearly very, very important for a home, no question about it. Here's two great examples of a more contemporary home and then a much older home. Much older homes, for example, photographed beautifully. The rich colors in an older home often make that home just stand out, make them look stunning. So good photographs clearly sells. And if this doesn't prove it to you, and maybe this will help. These are two photographs which are not ours, I should add.
Not ours.
This is the same kitchen. Clearly the top photograph, you can see it's already been prepared, it's been staged to some extent. It looks neat and tidy, it's not cluttered in any way. The work's been done to make that kitchen pop, but the photograph simply let it down. Whereas now in the lower photograph, you can see similar, perhaps a little bit more. Some of the pictures, for example, have been taken down, but now it looks really like the kitchen that people want to move into. So photographs really do matter, and we have example after example after example of very, very poor photographs. And it does, all the work's been done, especially if the seller has actually done everything, got the home looking, done all the tidying up, done the decluttering, looks great. Yeah, but the photographs let it down. And so photographs are key, and so we can give you example after example of where that's the case.
And if a buyer's got 4 houses that they've got time to go and see, they're going to make a decision based on the photos that are online.
That's true.
So the first one, they might dismiss it and not even bother going in and having a look at that home. Whereas the second photo, the after, that's powerful.
Right. So that's photographs. The way most of us consume content, anybody who's watching this right now is watching a live video, but a video all the same. Video is key to getting, here we go, thank you. Getting people, visibility of the home. And we do lots of different videos. Designed for different purposes. They're not there for no reason. They're designed for a specific purpose. So, for example, we will do a sneak peek where I'll give you an example of this in a minute, where we put a GoPro on our dog's back and have him run around the home. That's designed specifically for social media.
And for his dog clients.
There we go. But designed for social media.
Yes.
Sounds cute, but that's the one that gets the attention on social media. Guess what though? If somebody wants to click through the video, where do they go? They'll go to the website, which I'll show you in a moment. We do others. We do the standard walkthrough of the video, excuse me. We also, for some of our luxury listings, we'll do a lifestyle video, taking that home and showing people how they might live there, giving that kind of additional, okay, now I understand how this home, I can envisage working in this home. But let me show you.
Well, it's also, before you go on to that, we're also doing virtual open house videos too, because
we are.
While there's no open houses, physical open houses, the videos walk you through, but they don't open closets, they don't open cupboards, they don't show you unfinished areas. So we do a video that pretends that you're physically there at an open house having a look around the home. So that's sort of something that we've just done for this COVID time where we're not doing open houses.
Right. So just to give you a quick sense of what the canine one looks like, this is specifically designed for social media. That's what gets the attraction. That's what gets the hits on social media. But then it gets shared with a wide group of people, and guess what? It's that wide group of people that somebody in that group is going to want to look at the home. Or buy the home, excuse me. Then we do the more traditional, actually this is the home that you just showed us on the app actually.
Yeah.
This is the more traditional walkthrough video, how you kind of go into through the home. And again, in this case, we're the director. We're kind of leading you by the hand in terms of how you might go through that home. So that's another one of those videos that we show you. As well as video, next thing we do is over here, the 3D tour. And for this, I think it's worthwhile for us to show you the website because, I've got the photographs, I've got the video, now I've got the 3D tour. I need to package it all together in a website. And so let me show you the website. In fact, we'll do the same one for 16 Vale. We'll show you. Let me scoot down, if you'll excuse me for a second. I'll scoot down and I'll show you the website itself afterwards to the 3D tour. Here it is. Let me put it in full screen mode too.
And I don't think it's... yes it is.
There we go. Mm-hmm. So in this case, you, the potential buyer, are in control of how you walk around the home. You can start looking around. You can walk, through the home. Maybe I want to go into the kitchen area. I want to know this kitchen. Here we go. You can walk around that home and spend as long as you want in that home. You have a limited amount of time within a home. The message to buyers today is you're probably only going to get 10, maybe 15 minutes in a home. It's not going to be like the days of old where you could spend as long as you wanted at an open house. And so this is really important because it allows the buyers after the fact to go and look at the home. And this was one of the questions around virtual staging. This home has been staged. It's one of our homes, clearly. But when you virtually stage it, this is going to be a completely empty house as you look at it using the 3D tour. And that kind of detracts from the effect, I think. You've done it for photographs because it's cheap to do, but it loses its impact when you come and think about the 3D tour. You can go, there's the basement, you can go upstairs as well. You can go wherever you want in this home. You can go and take a look at it. As I say, you're very much in control. Some of the other things you can do is look at the floor plan, and I'll restrict this just to, maybe I'll do the second floor. Here you have the floor plan with furniture in it. This is the kitchen area down here, and then there's the dining room, there's the living room, and so on. But you can see this home with furniture in it, which is
gives you scale.
Right. The view that Danny quite likes is this one.
Is the dollhouse view.
I'm going to show all the floors.
So the dollhouse view allows you to see what rooms are on top of what rooms, and if you've got a half bathroom or if you've want to put a full bathroom into a home, you can see where the stacks are by looking at this this dollhouse view. So it really is powerful in seeing the layout and seeing how it all hangs together.
Right. So that's the 3D tour. Now, let me skip to the top of the website if I may. Having got all these things together, now you need to kind of package it so that the buyer can go and look at the home and all aspects of the home. And so we spent a lot of time and effort on the website to make sure we've got everything there. And we've structured it such that we kind of walk you through the home. Imagine, here you are, here's some details of the home, a few more details there. Then we kind of have a set of narrative and then photographs of the home. This will show you the front, I dare say. And so we carry on. That narrative as well as the photos. So we kind of lead you through the home. all the way through the family room, upstairs, and then there's probably downstairs as well. So we kind of take you through all aspects of the home. There's that 3D tour I talked about, and guess what? There's the video as well around that home. Danny talked about the property brochure. Here it is. This is what we used to print. We don't anymore, but you can view it and print it online if you want to have a look at it. There's the schematic floor plan, unlike the one we showed you before, which has got physical furniture in it. This is the schematic of it. Some photographs of the home, then the all-important stats about what's happening in the market. So that's really important to have that in there, as well as a map of where the home is in relation to town centre and so on. And then here we have, where do we look? This was 16 Vale. Here's the website, 16vale.com. And then to finish it off, as well as the floor plan, the plot plan, we have situating or showing you where the home is in relation to the town centre, for example, and the schools. And then the ever important, where's the home in relation to public transport, including the bike path and things like that. So lots and lots of information in one single place, showing you, everything. And guess what? All of that social media content, it points you to the website at the end of the day. So you're always going back to the website where all of the information is about that home. So that's really important. So if we go back to the PowerPoint for a second, if I move that out of the way, if I may. There's the physical website that I just talked about. Oh, no, I didn't want to do that. There we go. Sorry, there we go. Floor plans, that's really important too. Schematic floor plan in this case. You can see, where the room dimensions and everything around that's there. And then guess what? Now having created all that content, how do you get it out to the users? And there are two primary mechanisms that we use to get all that great content out to the users. Number one is social media. Here's an example of 3 adverts we have on social media for a coming soon, are just listed in a home of the week. And the idea around this is to spread it wide, not clearly as wide, other parts of the country. We're not
doing it to San Francisco.
No, we're not. But we are doing it broadly, remembering that a lot of our buyers today, of course, are coming from Boston, the Boston suburbs, or from Boston coming out to the suburbs. And so we're spreading that wide, that social media very wide. So that's important. That's the first key to getting this content out in front of the users. Having done that, now we need to target specific users. And so we've kept track of everybody who's come to an open house in the past. We've kept track of anybody who's looked on our website, anybody who's interacted with us, and we get an understanding of what exactly they're looking for. This now allows us to start sending out targeted information to those prospective home buyers, telling them about coming soons and so on. So we've gone broad with social media, with all the different content that you've seen here, the 3D tour, the different kinds of videos, the virtual open house, all of that, go broad with that, and then go very targeted with buyers or potential buyers who look like they may be interested in your home, given the price point and the location and so on. So that's the kind of key to the kind of getting it out there, if you will, the marketing of the home, using that content that we've got, and now bringing it in front of prospective buyers, the ever important prospective buyers. So,
excellence through teamwork.
Indeed.
So part of doing this is ensuring that when you bring a home on the market, everything's done for the sole purpose of maximizing the sales price. So we have a team around us that can help do this. But what's focal, or what's focus, what the focal point, who the focal people are, the focus of our attention, the center of our universe, is the client. They're the center of our universe. We're all working to do what we can to help our clients' homes sell for as much money as we can. So we've got the agent interacting with the client. We've got our listing coordinator interacting with the client. Our closing coordinator, once the home's under agreement, working with the client. We've got the preparation phase, the staging phase, and the marketing phase, all with the sole purpose of getting the highest price for the home. Because our goal is to sell your home for the most amount of money in the least amount of time with zero hassle or stress. That's what, when something has gone well for someone, then they then tell their friends, they then have a positive experience, and we treat our clients as it's a relationship for life, we hope. That's pretty important to us, because that tells us that we've done everything we can to get, because it's not, someone asked me the other day, do we spend as much time and effort on a $400,000 house? Actually, it was $330,000 house,
right, in
Lynn. We bought a condo on the market, and they were saying, do we spend as much time and effort on that $330,000 house as we do with a $2 million home? Absolutely, 100% absolutely. Because we do so much marketing compared to anyone else that the marketing that we do for a $2 million home is still 4 times more than the sorts of marketing that anyone else will do. But that $2 million seller, that's one of their most expensive assets that they own. Our $330,000 seller, that's the most expensive asset that they own. So we see that we have to do everything that we can to sell those homes for as much money as we can, regardless of the cost of the home, regardless of the price point of the home, because it's the most expensive asset that they own, and regardless of the price. I think I'm repeating myself. Our core values: integrity, ethical behavior, education, not selling. This is why we're doing these things, because it's really important for sellers to actually understand what's going on, so that you're not duped into selling your home to a builder when you would get more money to a home buyer. There's what the key components are of getting the highest price. So if someone's not going to do a 3D tour, and not going to do a video, and not going to do floor plans, and not going to market your home with a website and those sorts of things, you should be thinking, why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they doing that? But if you don't even know that those things happen, you're not going to ask those questions. And exceptional customer service. So let's talk a little bit more about what this involves. You really need to be hiring a professional, not Aunt Mary or a friend or something like that. You need someone who does it day in and day out. You don't want a 3 Ps agent. Now, a 3 Ps agent is, and this is a term in the industry, a 3 Ps agent is someone who puts a sign out front, who puts it in MLS and then prays. That's not how you get the highest price for your home. And it's not just us saying this. This was the NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors, engaged with, they commissioned a study, an independent organization to come in and do a study on what are the biggest threats to the real estate industry. The number one threat to the real estate industry was masses of marginal agents destroy reputation. The real estate industry is saddled with a large number of part-time, untrained, unethical, and/or incompetent agents. This knowledge gap threatens the credibility of the industry. It's not us saying that you need to hire a professional versus Aunt Mary. This is an independent study that came up with this is a huge issue with the industry. So how do you choose an agent? If you're in Lexington, did you know that there's 282 agents in Lexington? Last year, 86 of them listed a home. So 86 out of the 282. So 200 agents didn't even bring a home on the market last year. Let's go into why this is important. But first, of those 86 that did list a home, only 18 of them listed more than 5 homes. This is important because when you're talking about all of the marketing, you're talking about the preparation, you're talking about the staging, you're talking about the video, the 3D tours, the floor plans, all of these things. If you're an agent that does it day in and day out, everything, there's a process to it. You're systematized. Things happen like what was
Swiss
it?
watch.
A Swiss watch. Things happen like a Swiss watch. If you're only doing one home every year or every 2 years, you don't even know who does floor plans anymore. You forget about trying to do a video because there's just no way that you could figure that out. A 3D tour, So it's important to use an agent that does many. Because they've got processes in place and they make things happen when they're meant to happen. But that's not the one of the main things with choosing. Here's some data. You've probably seen postcards in the mail, top agent, number 1 agent, all of this sort of stuff. Here's the data. This is the top 10 agents in Lexington last year, 2019, with the number of listings. And these are not just in Lexington listings, but other towns as well. So here we are, the MA Props team, we brought 40 on. And then you've got the other agents. We're not naming people, but here are the other agents.
I could for a price. No, I could. No.
Marcus. The key component is not just how many homes they've bought on the market. That doesn't really matter, but it's the top 10. The key component is what is their average sale price to list price ratio. So ours that year was 103%. But look at this agent J. Their average sale price to list price ratio was 94%. Now, what I mean by average sale price to list price ratio, let's say a home comes on the market for $1 million and sells for $1 million, that's 100% sale price to list price ratio. If you've got 103% sale price to list price ratio, then the average that agent would get would be $1,030,000. Whereas agent J, the average that agent would get would be $940,000. So that's a lot of money, because just with that you're talking about a $90,000 difference on a $1 million home. Remembering that the average sale price in Lexington is over 1.2, it's about 1.3 at the moment. So that's a lot of money just because of the agent that you choose. And you can see that the agent C is at the same as where we are. Agent G is a little bit less, and then they drop precipitously after that. So here are our agents. With myself and Marcus, we've got Rachel, Andrew, Yuki, Corinne, and Wen-Jen. So I'm going to let Marcus go on to the next now. Okay.
So as part of this, we thought it would be useful to give you a quick sense of what buying is like in 2020, because clearly many sellers are also buyers. As I mentioned at the beginning, last Thursday, Corinne and I did a masterclass just like this, where we just focused on the buyers. So the stats were focused on the buyers, and also all the process. We went through all of the process, all of the tips and tricks and so on in terms of being successful in today's housing market. So there is a specific masterclass all about buying. This one, I'm just going to give you a sense of what it is. First question, of course, is when. I showed this graph before, this diagram before. We're very much in that buyer confidence return phases now. Buyers are back in the market. In many cases, they're back in force. So don't anticipate that this will not be a competitive market. If a home is priced well, it presents well, it will be a competitive market. If we listed it, it will be a very competitive market. So the how, there's a few things which are different. It really isn't business as usual. Masks clearly required. I mean, that's de rigueur anywhere, I guess, certainly Massachusetts. Many homes do not have open houses. As Danny mentioned before, we've shied away from doing open houses because we just think they have the potential to be chaotic. Far better to do private showings. Yeah. Those that do have open houses, you can only go in one group at a time. And depending on how many groups are going through, you might be there for quite a while. Be prepared to wait. And as our experience is that many cases buyers are just not willing to wait that long. That's for sure. So
and they leave.
Right. So really it is very much the right way to do this now is through those private showings, because then you can make an appointment for 3 o'clock and you can be in at 3 o'clock as opposed to turning up at 1 and getting in at 2:30. So clearly that's important. So private showings very much the preferred way of seeing it. As in fact, you can see it actually in the data that Danny showed you. What we're finding as we look at the times that people are looking at these, the 3D tour and so on, they're doing a lot of that as soon as the home comes on the market. They're looking at on a Thursday, traditionally the day that homes come on the market here in Lexington. That's the day that everybody's looking at the 3D tour. And what they're doing is they're deciding which home to go and see. That's what they're doing. A little bit of a lull then perhaps over the weekend while they're out looking at it, and then it picks up again Sunday, Monday, as they're now trying to reassure themselves, yes, this is the home I want to write an offer on. So you can see this play out in the data, that what most people are doing is that they're doing everything virtually, deciding whether this home ticks all the boxes. If it does, then move forward. If it doesn't, I'm not going to go see it, and do that. If you do go into the home, be prepared for some scary situations. You described the open house the just before. There's not going to be just you in the home. There's potentially going to be a large number of people in the home. And in general, the smaller, therefore the more affordable the home, the more buyer groups there are going to be, and therefore the tighter conditions you're going to see. Social distancing kind of goes out of the window a little bit. So be prepared for a situation that perhaps makes you somewhat uncomfortable. Preferred mechanism, of course, through the private showings. The inspections too are somewhat restricted. They're beginning to loosen, but not as much as we would like. Some inspectors not allowing buyers to attend, for example. Some inspectors not allowing agents to attend. So there may be just 2 people with the inspector going around the home. Sometimes the inspector will not allow anybody to go with them, and they will just send you a report including photos, maybe a video, and potentially a phone consultation. So that's nowhere near what you would want when you're having an inspection. The whole benefit of having an inspection sure is to find out what's wrong with the house, but it's also to find out about the home. How do you change the filter in the air conditioning system, and so on. There's a huge amount of information that the inspector shows you that is lost with all of these or many of these restrictions that you're seeing there. And so you really got to have confidence in that extended team as you're doing this, because you're really not going to have the access that potentially you had previously. In terms of financing, we are seeing the banks tightening the lending requirements. They're slower as well. We are finding the situation where you're expecting to close on September the 12th, but actually it ended up being a week later. There's just that little bit of a delay. So you need to be quite flexible in that too. We did have the situation where appraisals were often drive-by appraisals. So the appraiser didn't actually go into the home. And there was the potential and actually the reality of lower appraisals beginning to change as more appraisers are going into the homes. So that I think this period is over. We'll see. We may get the odd low appraisal, but certainly be cognizant of that. As you're looking to make an offer on a home, make sure you don't cap yourself out. Maybe have a little bit in reserve, because it may well be that home, if, for example, it is a drive-by appraisal, may well appraise a little bit less than the offer price that you made. So be cognizant of that. Work through your agent with that as well, as they can kind of talk you through or navigate you through the situation around financing. Danny showed you the listing dashboard. guess what? We have a buying dashboard too. That is all there as well. So that was kind of a really quick overview of buying in this market, that's for sure. Just because, Corinna and I spent probably an hour and a half talking about all the nuances of how to go about buying a home. And so if you are, wondering how you do that, please
make yourselves a martini and sit back
and watch it. Right, exactly. And you can pause it anytime you want. We'll make another martini. It's quite exciting. You don't need to get. It doesn't. You don't need to drink to go through it.
No,
it is pretty exciting.
A martini,
we kept it alive. We kept the pace going. Corinna and I kept the pace going. So that's there. Lots of information in there. Timing a buy and a sell. We don't have time to go through that here. We touch on that within the buyer's seminar. So there's lots of additional information. There's almost no overlap between what you've just heard and the buyer's seminar, because we go into detail with an awful lot of other things. So.
And now we're up to thank you. Thank you for joining us. If you've got any questions or anything like that about the whole process, then feel free to email, call, whatever, or just ask questions.
Right,
yeah,
absolutely.
Look, we, as you can tell, we love talking about real estate, and we'll just keep on talking unless we have a time limit, which we've got a time limit.
We do,
yes.
Yeah, we do.
Yes,
we do.
And it's dinner time.
Exactly, it is. So we do need to stop.
Anyway, please stay safe. Hope everyone is managing through this really sort of strange time that we're going through, and just know that there's people out there who are all ready to help when you need help.
Whatever your question is. So with that, we will say goodbye.
Okay.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.